لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك
لبيك يا ربي يا غافر الذنب يا قابل التوب لبيك من قلبي.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Mullah Asghar Memorial Library and Islamic Resource Center. Today we actually have a walkthrough exhibit of Hajj, and it's being established and created in sequential order. So this is actually going to be a walkthrough in order that a pilgrim would go through when they're actually performing the Hajj. I also want to point out that this is the starting point of the Hajj, so as one would know, the miqat, where the ihram is worn, and most importantly the niyat, and the intention is made to perform the Hajj. On the right of me we have a bird's eye view of the Kaaba in Makkah, and this is the location where the pilgrims perform their tawaf, where they circle around the Kaaba 7 times. One of the profound takeaways from this exhibit is a script that's found along the walls of the room. And it's a discourse between the 4th Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin, and one of the pilgrims of the time, Shibli, where the Imam asks, "Did you stop at Arafah, climb the mountain of Rahmah, know the reality of the valley of Namira, and pray to Allah, glory be to Him, at the sign and Jamarat?" And he said, "Yes," or Shibli replies, "Yes." The Imam then asks, "During your stay at Arafah, did you have the knowledge acquired of Allah's glory be to Him, knowledge of all the teachings, and of all the branches of knowledge? And did you know of Allah's possession of your book of deeds, and His knowledge about your inner self and heart?" And he said, "No." And actually there's many questions that are asked, and at first Shibli replies yes on the physical side of it. But when it comes to the innate understanding of what one was doing, he replies no. In the end, one of the final questions asked is, "And when you return to Makkah and perform the final tawaf, did you intend to proceed from the mercy of Allah, the Exalted, and to return to His obedience, adhere to His love, perform His obligations, and get close to Allah, the Exalted?" And Shibli replies no, and of course at that point he weeps and realizes that in actual fact he perhaps really didn't perform the Hajj. So one of the, I'd say, key takeaways in this exhibit is really understanding the underlying principles behind Hajj and why we do what we do. This is a representative model of the Kaaba. It's strategically placed here at the exhibit in the sense that it's in the actual center of the room. And central is actually a key theme because it is the main focal point for Muslims around the world where they pray towards every day. Additionally, during the pilgrimage, pilgrims will circle around the Kaaba 7 times, and it is one of the main acts, or one of the central acts during the pilgrimage. The pilgrims circle around the Kaaba in an anti-clockwise fashion, and it's quite profound because if we look at the celestial space, we see that the stars also circle anti-clockwise, the moon circles anti-clockwise. We'll also find that the pilgrims are wearing a white cloth, as I alluded to earlier. It's referred to as the ihram, and as they're performing their pilgrimage, the purpose or the reason for this is really that it eliminates any discrimination between anyone really in terms of race, in terms of status in this world. We are now in Arafat, and as it's explained, one of the main objectives of being in Arafat is to seek forgiveness, pray for your wishes, and understand one's inner self. The MARC court team have actually put together, as you'll see here, a tent to depict Arafat, and Arafat is actually referred to as Tent City. When you're there, you'll see many tents over the land. I'd say one of the key takeaways here is what our 6th Imam, Imam Ja'far Sadiq says, where once he was asked whose sin is greater than others, and the Imam answers that he who stays in Arafah and Muzdalifah performs the sa'i, circumambulates the Kaaba, and after completing all these acts says to himself, or has the impression that Allah has not forgiven him, is the biggest sinner. So, you know, the importance of really seeking your forgiveness, seeking forgiveness at this location is paramount. After, or in Arafat, you're actually in Arafat during the day. After the day, you move your way on to Muzdalifah in the evening, where you pick up the stones. And it's those stones where you use them in Jamarat, which is the next part of the exhibit that we're going to be talking about. We're now in Jamarat. This is the location where we use the pebbles or the stones that were picked up the night in Muzdalifah and are actually thrown at this wall, which represents Shaitan, the Satan. We throw pebbles at this wall, and the significance of doing so is really, as we're doing that, we are eliminating vices or bad habits that we have within ourselves to make ourselves better people. One of the final acts of the pilgrimage is conducted in Mina, where the qurbani or the sacrifice is done of a goat or of a lamb. This sacrifice has significant meaning in that it represents ultimate sacrifice for what we're willing to give up. In history, Prophet Ibrahim sacrificed his son, and as he was in the act of doing so, it was actually a goat that was sacrificed. This is an act that's conducted near the end, and right after it there's the halaq, which is the shaving of the head or the cutting of the hair, followed by the final tawaf. After performing the sacrifice in Mina, we make our way back to the Kaaba to perform the final tawaf. In doing so, we're actually completing our pilgrimage and essentially starting a fresh, new life, a life that's potentially and most hopefully sin-free, and really a brand new beginning. It's important to understand that when performing the Hajj, there's ritual, but very importantly, there's spiritual as well. And in understanding the underlying reasons behind what we do, we thereby ensure that we complete our pilgrimage with a much more wealthier, richer understanding and return for the effort put in.